We have two words of the week this week, and they are both verbs, and they both mean I see. Let's take a look. So blepo is I see, and horao is I see. But wait, what's this third word? Ken, you just said there are two words of the week. Well, adon is the aorist form of horao. The reason that I have it on the slide is because adon appears and forms thereof appear far more often than horao does. So blepo tends to appear in the present tense and in the imperfect tense. I see or I was seeing. But horao tends to appear most in the perfect tense or in the second aorist tense. I saw or I have seen. For the perfect tense, I have seen. For the aorist, I saw. So both words can be used of actual seeing, the act of seeing with your eyes, or figuratively, perceiving or understanding something. Blepo has the stronger emphasis on the physical function of your eyes. And interestingly enough, when we see opposition between blindness and sight, it's almost always blepo for seeing. So the antonym of being blind is blepo, I see with my eyes, right? Because blindness is not usually figurative, it's usually literal in the New Testament. When we see the passive voice for horao, it tends to mean, or for blepo, it tends to mean something has become visible. And if you want to take a look at that, take a look at Revelation 11:19. Horao and adon, the same word in different tenses, appears a lot. It appears at least 350 times, where blepo is not quite as frequent, but is a little bit more concrete. So let's start out with blepo for our first example. It's Matthew 12, verse 22 from the ESV with the Koine supplied. Then a demon-oppressed man who was blind and mute was brought to him, and he healed him so that the man spoke and saw. And saw here is blepein, which is a present infinitive. So literally it's to see. He began to speak and to see. So the blind and mute man began to speak and to see. So we're talking here about literal eye function, right? He was blind, but then after his interaction with Jesus, he began to see. Now let's take a look at a figurative example. This is Romans 7, 22 and 23. For I delight in the law of God in my inner being, but I see, blepo, in my members another law waging war against the law of my mind and making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in my members. So here, when he says I see, he's observing, he's perceiving. Is he physically seeing himself go against the will of God? Yes, he is. But it's about the perception. It's about understanding himself in contrast to to his desire to do what God would have him do, right? So here's some homework for you. Take a look in Matthew chapter 6 in the Sermon on the Mount. Take a look at verses 4 and 6, and you'll see Jesus counsel people to do their giving and their praying, not in a showy way, because their Father in heaven, who sees in secret, using forms of blepo, who sees in secret will reward them openly. So that's blepo. Now let's move on to horao and its cognate adon. We're starting out in Acts chapter 7, verse 34. This is part of the covenant lawsuit of St. Stephen, where he testifies recounting the history of Israel and their disobedience to God. All the things that God did for Israel and all the ways that they disobeyed him. So this is verse 34 from Acts 7. I have surely seen, adon, I saw, the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I have heard their groaning, and I have come down to deliver them. And now come, I will send you to Egypt. So this is God talking to Moses, explaining that he is not ignorant of what has been happening to Israel. He's seen it, and now he's going to act on it. All right, so Adon, second aorist, indicative, first person singular, I saw. Let's go on to John chapter 3, verse 11. Truly, truly, I say to you, we speak of what we know and bear witness to what we have seen. So to what we have seen here is ho heorakamen, that which we have seen, in the perfect tense. But you do not receive our testimony. So what is it that John is recounting here? That which we have seen is what we testify, right? That's in the verse. That's the point being emphasized. The emphasis is on the effect of the seeing. What we have seen in the past and now continue to know is what we are testifying. So see how the perfect tense places the emphasis on the result of the seeing. So if you want to see more, take a look at John chapter 6, verse 46, where you'll see another perfect tense. No one has seen the Father except the one who was with him and whom he has sent, etc. Finally, we're going to look at Philippians chapter 4, verse 9, for perception that's not limited to sight. Just like we had it with blepo, now we're going to have it with horao. So this is Philippians 4, verse 9. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. So seen here is eidete. It's aorist, indicative, second person plural. So Paul's counsel to the Philippians, the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen, everything that you have come to understand through his ministry, you should practice, is what Paul says. So here, it's a part of the package of perceiving, of understanding, right? All the stuff that you got from me. So both words can be used figuratively and literally regarding seeing or understanding. They're both, when it's talking about the function of the eyes specifically, it tends to be blepo rather than horao. Both can be used of God and man. Both mean I see. And interestingly enough, the major difference is in the tenses in which it's used, blepo in the present and in the imperfect, and horao in the aorist and the perfect. But the meaning essentially is I see, I perceive, I understand. 2 words of the week, blepo, horao. Hope that was good for you, and if it was, you know all the stuff to do. And until next time, Charis Kairein Humin, grace and peace to you.